Welcome to another monthly portfolio update. If you are stopping by for the first time, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. In this video, I will share with you how much I invested in my taxable account in November, how many shares I bought, and the value of my portfolio at the end of November. But as always, before I continue, a quick disclaimer. The information that I'm sharing is not financial advice. Before you invest in anything, please do your own research and make sure that you only invest in things that you understand. With that being said, I will dive right into my portfolio update. I will start with a quick recap of my October portfolio to show you the value of the portfolio and how many shares I had before the beginning of November. The total value of my portfolio at the end of October was $116,715.46. $116,714.13 was the market value of my investments, and $1.33 was a cash amount. At the end of October, the total unrealized profit of my portfolio was $39,547.30. This was plus 51.25%. These are my holdings: 2 Vanguard ETFs and 2 BlackRock ETFs. VCN is a Vanguard ETF that tracks the Canadian market. I had 112 shares of VCN at the end of October. VFV is a Vanguard ETF that tracks the S&P 500 index. This is the Canadian version of a VOO. I had 355 shares of VFV at the end of October. XEQT is a BlackRock ETF. This is an all-in-one equity ETF which holds Canadian equities, US equities, developed market equities outside of North America, and emerging market equities. If you want to hold a single equity ETF which is globally diversified, you might consider looking into XEQT or its Vanguard equivalent, VEQT. I had 630 shares of XEQT at the end of October. XUU is a BlackRock ETF that tracks the US total stock market, and I had 345 shares of XUU at the end of October. I will now show you how much I invested in November and how many shares I bought. I bought 2 shares of VCN. The cost per share was $61.48. The total cost, $122.95. This is 7% of the amount that I invested in November. I bought 5 shares of VFV. The cost per share was $166.02. The total cost, $830.09. This is 49% of the amount that I invested in November. I bought 10 shares of XEQT. The cost per share was $39.19. The total cost, $391.90. This is 23% of the amount that I invested in November. I bought 5 shares of XUU. The cost per share was $68.47. The total cost, $342.33. And this is 20% of the amount that I invested in November. In total, I bought 22 shares, all the ETFs combined, and the amount that I invested in November was $1,687.27. This is $13.30 more than the amount that I invested in October. As you can see, in October, I invested $1,673.97, and in November, I invested $1,687.27. The difference is plus $13.30. The total value of my portfolio at the end of November was $118,929.80. $118,915.74 was the market value of my investments, and $14.06 was a cash amount. At the end of November, the total unrealized profit of my portfolio was $40,061.64. This was plus 50.80%. As of November the 30th, I had 114 shares of VCN, 360 shares of VFV, 640 shares of XEQT, and 350 shares of XUU. Alright, let's now take a look at some quick details about each of the positions. I will start with VCN. The closing market price on November 30th was $64.06. The quantity of shares I had, 114. The average price, $42.39. The book value, which is how much I have invested in VCN, was $4,832.69. The market value was $7,302.84. This was 6.14% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for VCN was $2,470.15. This was 51.11%. Next, we have VFV. The closing market price on November 30th was $170.08. The quantity of shares that I had, 360. The average price, $109.91. The book value was $39,569.33. The market value was $61,228.80. This was 51.48% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for VFV was $21,659.47. This was a 54.74%. Then we have XEQT. The closing market price on November the 30th was $40.34. The quantity of shares that I had, 640. The average price, $28.12. The book value was $18,002.71. The market value was $25,817.60. This was 21.71% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for XEQT was $7,814.89. This was 43.41%. Finally, we have XUU. The closing market price on November the 30th was $70.19. The quantity of shares that I had, 350. The average price, $47. The book value was $16,449.37. The market value was $24,566.50. This was 20.66% of my portfolio. The total unrealized profit for XOU was $8,117.13. This was 49.35%. We experienced a little bit volatility in the stock market in November, with some ups and downs here and there, but somehow the market managed to finish the month barely in the green. We saw a decline of around 5% in stocks at some point in November before recovering in the latter part of the month. Basically, the S&P 500 index turned positive the last trading day of November. It gained 0.13%, bringing its year-to-date return to 16.45%. Over the last 7 months, this is the first time that the S&P 500 index has returned less than 1% a month. Actually, since May 2025, the index has returned anywhere between 1.90% and 6.15%. As for my portfolio, it went from being up 51.25% at the beginning of the month to just 50.80% at the end of the month. This is a decrease of 0.45%, even though I invested $1,687.27 in November. Although November's return was weaker compared to the past few months, we are sitting on a double-digit return for 2025. And frankly, this is quite impressive if you think about all the volatility related to tariffs that we experienced earlier in the year. There is only 1 month left in 2025, and we have a great chance to see a third double-digit return in a row. If you are a long-term investor, the most important thing is to stay the course and to keep dollar cost averaging on index funds or ETFs, such as the S&P 500 index, the US total stock market, or the total world stock market. And remember, long-term performance rests on time in the market, not market timing. Alright, feel free to leave a comment below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time with another update. Peace out.